Eli Winters ran through the mud, his boots sinking deep with every step as lightning tore across the sky. The storm had come fast, a roaring wall of wind and rain that rattled his old farmhouse. Then he heard it, a deafening, strangled roar that made the hair on his arms stand up. His livestock scattered, their terrified bleats lost in the crash of thunder. Something enormous was out there, struggling in pain. He skidded across the field, mud spraying his legs, and froze. A huge shape was slumped against the fence. Scales glistened like molten silver, slick with rain. Its eyes, golden and intelligent, flicked toward him. The creature's wings twitched, one broken and twisted awkwardly at an impossible angle. Eli's heart pounded. It was a dragon, a real dragon, and it was badly hurt. Most people would have run. Most people would have screamed or called for help that wouldn't come. But Eli didn't move. His father had taught him long ago that fear was a choice. He ducked under a branch and reached out slowly, calling in a low, steady voice, "It's okay. I'm not here to hurt you." The dragon growled softly, a deep, rattling sound that shook the air. Its wings flared slightly, and Eli could see the jagged cuts along its scales, blackened where fire had seared the edges. Something unnatural glowed faintly beneath them, a pattern almost like runes pulsing with a pale blue light. Eli didn't know what it meant, but he knew it wasn't just a wound. It was a message he couldn't read. Rain pelted down, but Eli's mind raced. He grabbed one of the farm's heavy tarps, careful not to touch the dragon's injured wing, and pulled it over the creature's head. It flinched violently but didn't attack. That small trust gave him courage. "I've got to get you somewhere safe," he muttered, lifting the edge of the tarp. The creature's golden eyes met his, and for a second something passed between them. Fear, yes, but also recognition. The dragon tried to rise, claws scraping the wet soil, but collapsed again, groaning. Eli didn't hesitate. He grabbed a rope from the barn, looping it gently around the dragon's body, careful not to tighten it. It was bigger than anything he had ever handled, yet his hands were steady. Every move had to count. One wrong action and both of them could be dead. Step by step, he guided the dragon toward the barn. Its head rested on his shoulder at times, weight immense, but Eli leaned into it, moving with determination. Lightning flashed again, revealing the full extent of the dragon's injuries. A wing was bent at an impossible angle, a deep gash along its flank, scales chipped and smoking slightly as if it had survived fire recently. Eli's stomach knotted. Whatever had done this wasn't natural. Inside the barn, he pushed quickly, throwing hay over the slick floor to give traction. The dragon sank to the ground, shivering, its chest rising and falling with labored breaths. Eli dropped to his knees beside it, pressing cloths to the deeper wounds. Rainwater dripped from the roof, soaking his shirt, but he didn't care. He whispered encouragements, repeating the same phrases over and over. "You're safe now. You're going to be fine. Just hold on." The dragon's eyes softened slightly, a shiver of trust moving through it. Eli felt his own chest tighten. He wasn't just dealing with an injured animal. This was a being of immense intelligence and power, and it had no one else to rely on. The responsibility hit him hard, but he didn't back away. Suddenly the barn doors rattled. The storm outside grew louder, but beneath the roar of thunder came a strange hum, like metal grinding on metal. Eli froze. The dragon stiffened, low growls vibrating through its chest. The glowing runes beneath its scales pulsed brighter, as if reacting to the noise. Eli's mind raced. Had the dragon's attackers found him? Were they tracking the creature here? He glanced at the broken wing, the jagged cuts, the pulsing glow. Every second counted. He grabbed a lantern, the flickering light casting shadows on the barn walls. "I don't know who's coming, but we'll face it together," he said. The dragon's head turned slightly toward him, a small, almost imperceptible nod. Eli swallowed hard, feeling the bond solidify. Then the ground trembled violently. Something heavy landed just outside the barn. Eli's heart skipped. The dragon hissed, wings twitching nervously. Rainwater sprayed in from a gap in the roof, mist mixing with the tension in the air. A shadow moved against the doorway, massive, alien, and unmistakably alive. Eli gripped the rope he had used to guide the dragon, ready for whatever came next. And then a voice, deep and guttural, echoed from the shadows. "You shouldn't be here, human." Eli's pulse thundered in his ears. He looked at the dragon, and it met his gaze with fierce determination, despite its injuries. The fight, the mystery, and the danger had just begun. The hum outside grew louder, a strange metallic resonance that made the barn walls shiver. Eli's grip on the rope tightened, heart hammering, eyes scanning the doorway. The storm had calmed slightly, but the tension in the air was worse than any thunder. The shadow shifted, and he could see it now, towering figures with sleek, black armor, eyes glowing faintly red. Alien shapes. Eli froze for a heartbeat. Most humans would have turned and run, but he didn't. Not now. Not with the dragon depending on him. He crouched beside the creature, whispering, "Stay down. Don't move." The dragon lowered its head, wings tucked, but a low growl rumbled through its chest. The aliens were cautious, moving in formation, scanning the barn with devices that hummed and clicked. Eli realized these weren't simple hunters. They were trackers, methodical and intelligent. Whoever had attacked the dragon before was still following it, and now they had him trapped. Eli's mind raced. There was no time to think about escape routes, no chance to call for help. The only option was to act, and act fast. He reached under the hay bales and pulled out a coil of wire and a few metal tools. If he could create a distraction by just a few minutes, maybe they could get out. Sweat ran down his face, mixing with rain and mud, but he didn't falter. His hands moved quickly, connecting wires to scrap metal, rigging a crude alarm to trip if the door was forced open. A shadow flickered at the doorway. One of the aliens tested the barn doors with a scanning beam. The dragon flinched violently, but Eli whispered again, "Trust me." The creature's eye flicked to him, and he nodded. Together they waited. The beam passed over the trap. A tense second, then a loud spark and a burst of flame. The alien yelped, stumbling backward as the improvised device sent fire and smoke billowing. Eli grabbed the dragon's rope and tugged it gently. The dragon rose, unsteady but willing. Together they slipped out a side gap in the barn, mud sucking at their boots and claws. The aliens recovered quickly, but the smoke gave them the precious seconds they needed. Outside, the rain had slowed, but lightning still flashed in the distance. The dragon limped forward, one wing dragging awkwardly. Eli kept close, guiding it across the field toward the woods. Each step was heavy, every movement dangerous, but he didn't stop. He had learned long ago that hesitation could be fatal. The wind carried alien voices, harsh, clicking, and completely foreign. Eli's stomach tightened. They weren't just after the dragon, they were after him too. The dragon let out a weak hiss, and Eli placed a hand on its scaled flank. "I've got you," he said firmly. "We're getting out of this." He had no idea how, but the determination in his voice seemed to reassure the creature. Its eyes flickered with recognition, the pulsing blue runes glowing faintly in response to his touch. That small connection, the dragon's trust in a human, gave him strength. The forest edge loomed ahead, dark and thick with undergrowth. Eli could hear the aliens moving behind them, scanning, searching. He glanced back once, and one of the creatures raised a weapon, a long, sleek lance that glimmered unnaturally. They fired a beam of energy that sizzled through the air. Eli reacted instantly, ducking behind a tree as the blast tore a swath through mud and leaves. The dragon roared, wings fluttering despite the injury, and leaped forward. Eli ran beside it, pushing aside branches, heart pounding, lungs burning. Every instinct told him to keep moving, to survive. The dragon, despite its pain, pressed on, its trust in him undeniable. They reached a small clearing where the trees thinned, giving them room to move. Eli's eyes scanned for anything he could use, a fallen branch, a rock, anything to slow the aliens. He grabbed a broken tree limb and hurled it toward the attackers. It barely hit, but the distraction was enough for the dragon to stumble past, dragging Eli with it. Suddenly, a strange light appeared above the trees. A sphere, hovering, pulsing with blue energy, and for a brief second the world seemed to hold its breath. The dragon froze, muscles tensing. Eli's stomach lurched. He had seen something like this before in old legends, but never imagined it was real. The sphere descended slowly, scanning the forest, lights dancing across the wet leaves. Whatever it wasn't just interested in the dragon, it was mapping everything, every move, every sound. Eli whispered, "We need to hide, now." He guided the dragon behind a thick cluster of oaks. The creature flattened itself against the roots, shivering, one eye peeking out. Eli's hands worked quickly, covering both of them with mud, leaves, and branches. The sphere's beam swept over them, just missing. Eli held his breath, heart hammering so hard it felt like it might break his ribs. The dragon's eyes met his. No words were needed, they understood each other perfectly. Time dragged. Every second stretched, each beam of light making the forest feel smaller, tighter, deadlier. Then, with a high-pitched whine, the sphere ascended abruptly, vanishing into the clouds. The aliens behind it hissed in frustration, searching for where their prey had gone. Eli exhaled slowly, muscles trembling from adrenaline. The dragon's breathing steadied slightly, wings twitching, still in pain but alive. Eli smiled faintly, wiping mud from his face. "We made it, for now," he said. The dragon nudged him gently, almost like a thanks. That tiny gesture gave him hope, but he knew it was temporary. The danger was far from over. And then the ground beneath them trembled, harder than before. The trees swayed violently. Eli froze. The dragon hissed sharply, back arching, wings flaring. Something huge was moving toward them, faster than any human or dragon should be able to run. Eli's stomach sank as a shadow eclipsed the moonlight, massive and unrecognizable. Whatever was coming, they were next. The shadow moved closer, shaking the earth beneath Eli's boots. He pressed himself against the twisted roots of an oak, mud coating his hands, heart hammering in his chest. The dragon crouched beside him, wings trembling, chest heaving. Rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the storm in the sky seemed to echo the tension between them and whatever was approaching. Then he saw it. It wasn't one of the black-armored aliens. They were smaller, methodical, but a creature far larger, taller than any dragon he had ever imagined. Its skin shimmered like liquid metal, reflecting the storm in jagged patterns. Limbs stretched unnaturally, and its head, if you could call it that, was crowned with a ring of glowing, shifting eyes. It moved silently, but the forest trembled with every step. Eli's stomach twisted. This was something else entirely, something older, more powerful. The dragon growled low, almost a whisper of sound, a warning Eli couldn't ignore. "I know," he whispered back. He had no plan, only instincts and determination. He reached down and grabbed a fallen branch, weighing it in his hands. It wouldn't harm the creature, but it might make enough noise to distract it, to buy a fraction of time. Every second mattered. As he prepared to act, the dragon shifted. Its scales pulsed brighter now, the strange blue runes glowing in rhythm with its rapid heartbeat. Eli realized something astonishing. The dragon's markings were reacting to the giant's presence. The patterns weren't just decoration, they were a signal, a message, a warning. His mind raced. Was the dragon trying to communicate something? Or was it warning him of the danger? The creature paused, hovering just at the edge of the clearing. It scanned the forest with those multiple glowing eyes, and then one of the eyes fixed directly on the dragon. A sharp, piercing sound cut through the drizzle like metal scraping glass. The dragon flinched violently. Eli instinctively threw the branch into the underbrush. It hit a tree with a crack, but the creature barely flinched. Then Eli saw it, hidden beneath the creature's leg, almost invisible in the shadows. A small device pulsing with the same faint blue energy as the dragon's markings. It emitted a soft hum, almost like a heartbeat. Eli's eyes widened. This wasn't just an attack, it was tracking, tagging, controlling. Whoever had sent the dragon here had more tools in play than he could imagine. Eli swallowed hard. He had to act. He whispered, "We're going to figure this out. Together." The dragon's eyes flickered toward him, and he felt the unspoken bond. They were partners now, relying on each other. With careful precision, he guided the dragon to a fallen log, using it as cover. They inched closer to the device, and he could see the faint symbols etched along its surface. They were like nothing he had ever seen, yet somehow familiar, echoing the runes on the dragon. The dragon hissed softly, nudging Eli's shoulder. He understood. The creature wanted him to disable the device. Taking a deep breath, he crawled forward, heart racing. Fingers trembling, he used a small wrench from his belt to pry at the casing. Sparks flew, and for a moment he thought the device might explode, but the dragon's low growl steadied him, a pulse of trust and courage. With one final twist, the casing popped open, revealing a crystal core pulsing erratically. Eli yanked it free. The hum stopped. Silence fell. For the first time since the storm began, Eli allowed himself a small breath of relief. The dragon's markings dimmed slightly, its wings relaxing. It gave him a small, almost imperceptible nod, as if acknowledging that he had just saved not only its life, but possibly its freedom. Eli's chest swelled with pride, but he didn't relax completely. The shadow giant hadn't moved yet, it was still watching, still calculating. Suddenly the creature lurched forward, faster than any human could react. Eli shouted, "Move," and the dragon obeyed, leaping over the log with surprising strength despite its injury. They tumbled down a slope, mud sliding under their feet, the alien's massive form crashing through the trees above them. Branches snapped, rainwater sprayed, and Eli held on for dear life, heart pounding. They landed in a shallow ditch, hidden for a moment. Eli pressed his hand to the dragon's flank, feeling the rapid pulse of energy under its scales. "We're not safe yet, but we just got a chance," he said. The dragon huffed, a puff of smoke escaping its nostrils, and for the first time, Eli felt that they might survive this encounter together. The giant's shadow passed over them again. Eli risked a glance. Its multiple eyes scanned the ditch, clearly aware of their presence. But something had changed. Without the device, the creature hesitated. It roared, a sound that made the forest shiver, then abruptly retreated toward the clearing, moving with purpose as if signaling others. Eli's mind reeled. This was just a scout. How many more were out there? And why had the dragon been sent to this remote farm in the first place? Eli's stomach twisted with a mixture of fear and determination. He looked at the dragon, still trembling but alive. "We need to get moving now," he said. Its wings twitched, one damaged, but it obeyed, ready to follow. Together, they disappeared into the shadows of the forest, rain mixing with sweat and mud, every nerve on edge. And then Eli heard a faint sound above the treetops, a low, mechanical hum, different from anything before. Looking up, he saw something that made his blood run cold. A second, even larger craft, glowing with a strange energy, hovering silently against the dark clouds. Its sheer size blocked the moonlight. The dragon stiffened. Eli swallowed hard. This wasn't over. Whatever had sent the first creature, whatever had wounded the dragon, was coming in full force. And now they were trapped. Eli's heart pounded as the massive craft hovered above the trees, humming with alien energy. The forest shook with each pulse of light, branches snapping, leaves flying in chaotic swirls. The dragon pressed close to him, wings quivering, scales glinting faintly in the glow. Eli knew they didn't have much time. Whoever, or whatever, was inside that ship wasn't here to negotiate. He scanned the clearing. Fallen branches, mud, and rocks littered the ground. His eyes fell on the remains of a rusted plow near the edge of the field. It wasn't much, but it could work. Adrenaline sharpened his thoughts. If they could set a trap, even a small one, maybe they could slow the alien long enough for the dragon to strike. "We can do this," he whispered, more to himself than the creature beside him. The dragon hissed softly, a puff of smoke signaling its understanding. The ship descended slowly, massive legs extending to brace against the ground. Light scanned the area, sweeping over them like a predator's gaze. Eli gritted his teeth. He grabbed the plow, dragging it toward a fallen tree and wedging it to create a crude trip mechanism. His hands shook, mud dripping from his arms, but he didn't pause. Each moment of hesitation could be fatal. The dragon flexed its broken wing, trying to rise. "Wait," Eli said sharply, placing a hand on its flank. He needed it to hold, conserve energy, and trust him. The creature's eyes flicked toward him, then back to the hovering ship. It understood. This was their only chance. A hatch on the alien ship opened, and a figure emerged, sleek, black armor glinting, energy weapon in hand. Its gaze fixed on them instantly. Eli's stomach clenched, but he stepped forward, lifting a muddy branch like a spear. The alien advanced, steps precise and silent. Every muscle in Eli's body screamed to run, but he stood firm. He was no warrior, no soldier, but he was human. He had courage and he had a plan. The dragon let out a low growl and surged forward, moving despite the pain in its wing. Its tail slammed against a tree, sending splinters flying. Eli darted behind the creature, tossing small stones toward the alien to create noise, to distract it. One of the stones hit the alien's device strapped to its arm, sparking briefly. The figure recoiled, giving Eli a split-second advantage. He lunged, swinging the branch not to kill but to trip the alien. It stumbled, and that tiny moment was enough. The dragon leapt, wings flaring despite the injury, and struck with claws and tail. The alien was thrown back several feet, skidding on the wet mud. Eli's chest heaved with adrenaline, but he didn't stop. He grabbed a loose metal chain from the ground and wrapped it around the alien's weapon arm, yanking it to the side. Sparks flew. The alien scrambled, growling in frustration, and Eli saw its chest panel, the glowing core he had glimpsed before on the dragon's previous attacker. Without thinking, he jabbed a wooden stake into the panel. The device short-circuited with a high-pitched scream, lights flickering wildly. The alien froze, unbalanced, then fell backward with a heavy thud. Eli stumbled, breathing ragged, covered in mud and rain. The dragon roared triumphantly, but their victory was short-lived. A second, far larger figure emerged from the hovering ship, its presence casting a shadow over them. This one moved with terrifying speed, limbs snapping unnaturally, eyes glowing brighter than the storm above. Eli froze for a split second. This was unlike anything he had imagined. The first alien was down, but the threat had only escalated. Eli, the dragon hissed, nudging him forward. It wasn't just a warning, it was a command to keep moving, to act. His mind raced. He grabbed another branch and aimed for a weak point in the creature's armor he could see, relying on instinct rather than knowledge. He swung and the branch glanced off, barely scratching the surface. The alien struck, sending him flying into the mud. Pain shot through his side, but he forced himself up. He couldn't fight this thing alone. He looked at the dragon. Its wings flared despite injury, its eyes locked on the creature. Together they could be unstoppable. "Follow my lead," he panted. He threw himself at the alien again, dodging its sweeping strikes. The dragon lunged simultaneously, claws raking, tail smashing into the ground to create vibrations. The alien staggered, confused by the human-dragon coordination. Eli grabbed a fallen metal beam and slammed it against the alien's legs. Sparks flew. The dragon roared, striking again. Slowly, impossibly, the creature faltered. It stepped back, a high-pitched shriek cutting through the air. Eli's chest heaved, every muscle burning, but he didn't stop. They were winning, but barely. Then the ground shook violently. Trees cracked. A deep rumble echoed across the clearing, louder than the storm, and the hovering ship above began to shift. Something massive was approaching from the sky, bigger than anything Eli had ever seen. The dragon froze, its runes pulsing erratically. Eli realized with a cold jolt, this fight wasn't over. The arrival from above could crush them both in seconds. He looked down at the dragon. "We've come this far, we can't stop now," he said. The dragon's wings twitched once more. Together, human and dragon, they prepared to face the next wave, hearts pounding, mud and rain soaking them through, knowing the impossible odds were far from over. And then, from the shadows of the trees, Eli noticed faint, glowing symbols on the forest floor, identical to the runes on the dragon. A message. Or a warning. Something ancient and powerful was watching, and they had just stepped into the beginning of a much larger battle. Eli's stomach sank. The fight had been won, for now, but the skies above promised an arrival that could change everything. Eli sank to one knee, mud caking his clothes, his chest heaving from exertion. The rain had finally slowed to a drizzle, leaving the air thick with the smell of wet earth and ozone. The dragon crouched beside him, breathing heavily, one wing still twisted awkwardly but alive. Its glowing runes pulsed faintly, calmer now, as though the danger had lessened. For the first time since the storm began, Eli allowed himself a moment to look around. The forest was quiet. The immediate threat had passed. He reached out, brushing a muddy hand along the dragon's scales. "You're okay, we made it," he whispered. The dragon blinked slowly, eyes softening, and nudged him gently. That single gesture, small, simple but filled with trust, made Eli's chest tighten. They had survived impossible odds together. He had faced creatures beyond anything human records had ever imagined, and somehow his courage, quick thinking, and compassion had kept them both alive. Eli's mind raced. The aliens had retreated, but the larger ship still hovered above the treetops, far off now, its hum fading but unmistakable. Whoever, or whatever, was inside hadn't abandoned their mission. This was far from over. Yet, the human spirit he felt burning inside him refused to bend. He wasn't a soldier, he wasn't trained for war, but he had something equally powerful, determination and ingenuity. That would have to be enough. The dragon shifted, letting Eli see its injuries more clearly. Broken wing, deep gashes along its flank, scorched scales. Yet, despite the damage, it looked at him with something that felt like understanding. Eli knelt beside it, pressing a clean rag to one wound, feeling the heat of its body under his fingers. "I'll fix you," he said softly. "It'll take time, but you'll be strong again." The dragon's head lowered slightly, a sign that trust had been forged in blood and fear. Eli surveyed the forest floor, noticing something strange. Faint, glowing symbols traced a path from the clearing to the edge of the woods. They pulsed in a slow rhythm, similar to the dragon's runes. His eyes widened. Someone, or something, was leaving a trail for them, not as a trap but as guidance. Carefully he followed, dragging the dragon along as best he could. The runes led them to a hidden grove, sheltered by thick trees and natural cliffs. A small spring trickled through the rocks, creating a safe place for the dragon to rest. He settled it gently onto the mossy ground, wincing as the dragon hissed softly from the pain. "Here you'll be safe," he murmured. "I can patch you up properly, feed you, and we'll figure out the rest together." Even in exhaustion, his mind was alert. Every decision mattered, every action had consequences. The dragon had survived because Eli had acted decisively, and he knew that survival was only the first step. As he worked to stabilize the creature, Eli couldn't stop thinking about the larger alien threat. The ship above hadn't left completely. They had survived the first attack, but the arrival hinted at something bigger, something that could reach farther than any forest clearing, any farm, any single human or dragon could face alone. Eli shivered, a mix of fear and excitement surging through him. Humanity might not have advanced technology or alien armor, but it had courage, ingenuity, and heart. That was enough to tip the scales, even against impossible odds. Hours passed. The dragon rested, breathing steadier now, the pulsing runes slowing in sync with its heartbeat. Eli scavenged what he could from the surrounding forest, branches, clay, medicinal herbs he remembered from old lessons, and did what he could to tend to its wounds. It wasn't much, but it was something. Small victories mattered. Every tiny act of care and courage built toward something greater. As dawn approached, the storm clouds parted slightly, revealing streaks of gold and pink across the sky. Eli stood at the edge of the grove, looking up at the horizon. The dragon rose slowly, testing its wing, and Eli smiled faintly. Not fully healed, not fully free, but alive. They had won a battle that seemed impossible, and in doing so, Eli had proven that human courage, compassion, and quick thinking could matter, even in a world dominated by alien forces. Then he noticed movement beyond the cliffs. Shadows, larger than anything he had seen, shifting in the distance. A cold thrill ran through him. The symbols on the forest floor pulsed once more, faintly, as if warning him. Something was coming, something far bigger than the last ship. Eli's jaw tightened. He would face it. They would face it. Together. The dragon hissed softly, nudging him again. Its voice wasn't words, but Eli understood perfectly. They weren't just survivors. They were partners, allies against an unknown threat, ready for whatever came next. Eli clenched his fists. Fear was still there, yes, but it was tempered with resolve. Humans could face impossible odds and still shine, and he was about to prove it again. A faint hum echoed from the horizon, rising slowly, accompanied by distant flashes of light. The new threat was approaching, bigger and faster than before. Eli's stomach twisted with tension, but his eyes were steady, his mind sharp. The dragon shifted beside him, glowing runes pulsing in rhythm with its heartbeat and his own. Together they faced the horizon. "This isn't over," Eli said quietly, voice firm, carrying through the quiet grove. "And when it comes, we'll be ready." Above, the clouds swirled, hiding something massive. The hum grew louder. Something ancient, something powerful, something that could change everything was on its way. Eli's grip tightened on the dragon's scales. They had survived impossible odds once. They would survive again. And for Eli that was enough, for now. The forest fell silent. The dragon's breathing steadied. The hum pulsed once more in the distance. The adventure was far from over.